Welcome to Saturday's Warrior, the channel where we talk all things BYU and Big 12 and realignment. But today we are talking about BYU's Week 2 win over SMU. We were a 2-score underdog for this game and pulled out a tough, gritty win, 18-15. And so, again, this is a game BYU was not supposed to win, but yet, we pulled off this upset of sorts, and yet still BYU fans, many of them have come away from it feeling not so great. How are you feeling today, Adam, after that?
Better than I was on Friday night. Um, I struggle with offensive struggles more than anything else. I think I've said this before, but I'd rather see a high scoring, high octane offense where we can't stop the other team, but they can't stop us. And so it's a high scoring affair. And I think that's just what you grow up with as a BYU fan. You're used to those, 52 to 48 games. Um, and I like that. That's fun to me. And when our offense struggles, it just grates at my nerves. And so watching us just for 2 quarters go completely dead was tough. So proud of the team because man, they really gutted this out. And you got to have wins like this to build character as a team for the future. So certainly there's plenty of positives coming out. But as a fan, it's a tough one to watch.
Yeah, so there were a couple major takeaways I think that everybody's come away with. So I want us to quickly hit on that, and then we'll move into some other finer points that we want to talk about. But should we start with the positive or the negative?
Let's start with the negative. We'll get to the positive.
Okay, great. Well, the negative is really that the offense struggled, and there were a lot of complaints about the same old Aaron Roderick play calling, and then a lot of obviously worry about Jake Retzlaff. Again, 3 turnovers, and so people worried about him picking up where he left off last year, despite the great game that he had last week. And so, obviously, a lot of fans we're calling for both of them. Replace Retzlaff. We need a new OC. It's not really helped by the fact that Steve Young is out there whispering about Ellen Moore
Ellen Moore.
and getting all kinds of excited. And so,
Yeah.
And I may have played into it a little bit. I got comments on the video on my reaction video that we did after the game, which, by the way, please like and subscribe so you can catch those as we do our reaction videos right after the games, and we kind of digest what we just witnessed. And then also later this week, we're going to have a look in with a guest to talk about Wyoming and preview that matchup. But in that, I got some comments, and maybe I was a little bit too out on Retzlaff in my instant reaction, and I'm not. I feel like he probably should still be the starter, but my thought was in that game when running couldn't open up, you have another quarterback that can run, that could maybe open up that element of the game. It would have been a way to go to kind of give the opposing defense another look and maybe open up some things that hadn't been there previously in the game. Having said that, by the end of the third quarter, they had that drive, that second touchdown drive, where Retzlaff ran on probably over half of the plays there. And then that big play, the pass that he made, which was kind of getting the team to bite, on Retzlaff running. They bit again, and then he threw it over their heads and for a big gain. And so I think that helped. Just adding that element kind of helped open things up for him a little bit. So maybe maybe Retzlaff can run well enough. Maybe pulling him wasn't the answer, but I don't know. What do you think about the whole QB situation?
So I think if you pull Retzlaff, um, he's done for the season. Not to say you can't play him or that he won't be effective in some ways, but at that point, it's quarterback is such a mental, confidence-driven game. And if you're pulling him after he got the starting nod, you pull him after 2 bad quarters, he's done. And so if you're confident enough in Bohannon that you can run with him the rest of the season, okay, you can make that call. But I think they made the difficult right choice in leaving him in there and letting him grow. If they want to have a really genuinely successful season he needs to perform. He needs to perform at the top of his game. I don't know that Bohannon has it. And so you ride with him. You give him a chance. Even if you lose the game, it's harder to say it was the right choice. It's easy to look back and say, "Oh, we won the game, so he squeaked it out. He made some big plays. We made the right choice." Even if you lose that game, I think it's the right choice. But you certainly keep it on a shorter leash now, and because at some point you may have to make that change. His play was poor enough to warrant a change at some point. And for me, it's going to go one of two ways here now. You can take this, you learn from it, and offenses do this. They have a bad game or a couple bad games. They learn from it. They build on it. Look at Oklahoma State last year. They were horrendous. Lost to an FCS team at home, horrendous, and go to the Big 12 title game. And I'm not saying we're going to do that, but offenses can learn and grow. On the other hand, a lot of times they don't. Like our offense last year, it just seems stagnant. And so I think you'll know Wyoming will be very telling. Kansas State will be very telling. If you're struggling there, then I think you do have to consider a QB change to spark your offense. But this early in the season, in a game that was that close, I think they made the right call.
Yeah, I think you're right. And as I look back on it, because somebody made a comment. Sorry, I'm bad at always giving credit to who said it, but you know who you are. But just talking about, yeah, not only the quarterback's confidence, but also the locker room, and you kind of you send a very confusing message. And then also when you stick out Bohannon, if it doesn't work out with him, then what do you have? And then what are your options? And so I agree. And so I guess to my earlier point, they switched up the play calling though a little bit, which helped because obviously the run game is struggling quite a bit. Now they've also said that they're going to be activating a couple of the other freshman running back that looked like they wanted to give red shirts to. So there's going to be a little bit more variety there. We'll see if any of them can surprise, kind of like LJ Martin did last year. And maybe one of them is vaulted to the top because I don't think they've announced yet, but I don't believe that either Martin or Rapati are going to be back for this.
They were announced as doubtful today, so unlikely that either will play.
Okay. So yeah, I wouldn't think so, especially in a game where, with Wyoming, while we're playing there and you can't ever rule them out and you don't want to, not take your opponent seriously. I think it's definitely worth trying to get them healthy and save them for later in the season. I mean, it's possible they're not even ready to play next week against Kansas State. So, okay. So now on the other side of this is A-Rod. So what did you think about his play calling and its impact on the game?
So it's interesting because there were moments of where it was really discouraging. But to me, the offensive coordinator play calling is the ultimate uneducated fan blame game. And I fall into it too. Don't get me wrong, but it's the most obvious thing you can see. I didn't play collegiate level football, so I can't dig into the X's and O's and tell you exactly what's going on. But I can tell you that run play didn't work. We call the draw on 3rd and long, or we don't, we're trying to get cued on 4th and 1, whatever it is. It's easy to criticize the play calling, and I feel like it goes much, much deeper than that. It's usually built around execution. A-Rod made some brilliant calls at times in the game, particularly the 4th and 1 to win the game, and the option pitch to Miles Davis. So I'm not necessarily defending A-Rod because certainly if the offense doesn't improve, then I think we can say that he did not succeed in the last couple of years as an offensive coordinator. Definitively, there's not, no matter what, he's the guy at the head of the offense. If it doesn't succeed, it's on him. But I don't know that it's his play calling that's doing it. I think there's other things. And again, not to exculpate A-Rod, it's on him if the offense doesn't perform. He's the offensive coordinator, but I just don't feel like it's necessarily the play calling that's doing it. There's so many other elements that are going wrong that I don't want to point fingers at the play calling. It's execution, it's quarterback decision making, it's other things that we can get into in a little bit, but I don't feel like it's play calling. That's too simplistic for me.
Yeah, and also one thing why I'm usually hesitant to do that, and the thing is I was hesitant to blame certain things on certain people last year, although by the end of the season it really felt like, okay, it did come down to those things. But because we also don't know what they're seeing in practice, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And I have to, usually I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, knowing they're saying that they know way more than I do about this situation, what's going on, and
Yeah.
obviously way more familiar with the game. I couldn't do what they're doing. So have to assume that they have information that is leading them to make these decisions and not just ineptitude. Although sometimes it makes you wonder, because it was was it a third down or fourth down now? But they even they took what was it? But anyway, it was when they were running right up the middle. Everyone knew it was coming. They even had to put in. They had to switch running backs, and then they went for it again, and they still just ran up the gut. There was nowhere. They were loading the box, and it was just was there?
Yeah, that was the Miles Davis handoff on 4th and
Yes,
1, and he
yeah,
got eaten up for a 3-yard loss. He never even had a chance to make a cut, just destroyed.
yeah. Was that for a fourth down or was
4th and 1. Yeah.
yeah? And I think
And,
there was
and and so here's the argument. I don't like it when we get cued on 4th and 1 either. But there we have run up the gut, smash mouth football on 4th and 1, and we get clobbered. And so is it execution? Is it our guy just getting outplayed, out muscled? Is it, or is it the play calling? It's to me, play calling is too simplistic. Because when you run up the gut and it doesn't work, you're like, well, we should have been, at least run some counter play, something creative. Then you run something creative and it doesn't work. You're like, well, we got too cute. Just smash it up the middle. As a fan, you're just frustrated. You didn't get the first down. You might lose to SMU.
Yeah, no, you're right. You can always blame the play call, if it doesn't work, and if it does, then um, you know you can say, oh well, they got lucky on this one or whatever. Yeah, and it goes both ways. That you don't see a lot of consistency there, but that one was head scratching. It's someone from me, like me, sitting there like, hey, I don't have all the X's and O's, I don't have all the answers, but it really seems like this is going to be difficult to get that,
When
especially
you
in the
got 9 in the box.
right, because it was shotgun, right? And he took it and then he ran. So it
Yes.
wasn't even like a quick QB
Yes.
sneak. Let's just
And
squeeze
I'm
him in the spot.
screaming, do the sneak, just sneak it. You need like 6 inches, go, and who knows? I don't know. It just gets frustrating when you line up and you just need the yard. You just need the yard. And I get that SMU is a big, strong defensive front. A lot of Miami transfers that's like all the color commentator could talk about was the 2 SMU quarterbacks and the Miami transfers, like until my ears bled. But
Yeah,
so I get that there were Miami transfers on that team. But still, I mean, you should be able to stack up against those guys. You should be able to move the ball a yard.
yeah.
And
So
I know the O line feels that way too. So
yeah, absolutely. What's I put a poll out on Twitter asking what was the bigger concern for BYU's offense, the QB or the OC, and it was close. And I only had 19 votes. I mean, I don't have a huge following on Twitter, so feel free to follow me. If you don't, that's okay too. But I was just really curious to see what people would say. And honestly, I'm surprised I got 19 votes on there. So it's and it was 52 to 74. I know that doesn't add up to 100, but in decimals. So the in favor of QB being the bigger concern, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Jake brings a lot to the table. You just need and a couple of those, like that one interception where the dude was down and just like popped up out of nowhere. That I mean, that those kinds of plays happen, but when you're already turnover prone and you're already, the fans are like ready to turn on you. I mean, you have to remember too, when Taysom Hill, it was his last year, and Tanner had just come off that season of
yeah,
the miracle and everything, and Taysom struggled a little bit, and there were people that actually wanted Tanner Mangum in over Taysom Hill, or saying, hey, is this something we should consider? Move on to the
I
future
remember
and
that. Yeah,
everything. And it's just insane. So, fans are fickle and always
yeah,
willing to turn. But the coaching staff, and we said this too, that if Jake struggles at all, when you put it out there, this drawn out QB battle, that you kind of set it up for people to start questioning and saying, hey,
you do.
it's a time to switch the QB now, because you said these guys are basically even. One of them struggling. Let's try the other guy. And
Yeah,
so that didn't help the situation either. So I don't know. All in all, I'm hoping this week is a chance to fix some things and kind of get ready for the K-State game. Do you think we should see Bohannon at all in this game? Get prepped in case they do have to at some point make a switch?
I don't. not at this point. You're still all in on Jake Retzlaff, and I think my honest opinion of how it's going to go, he's going to go out and do great against Wyoming. He's going to look good. He's better than last year.
Yep.
And I think he's going to have SMU games and he's going to have SIU games. And I think we're going to see both. And you hope there's more SIU games than SMU games. I don't think SIU was an anomaly just because it was an FCS school. I think that was Jake Retzlaff at his best. And I think we'll see that sometimes. I think you'll see more of that against Wyoming. If you don't, then you make a change and you go all in on the change, in my opinion, and go for Bohannon. He's experienced enough; he could step in midseason and handle it. But I think what you'll likely see is 2 or 3 really strong games from Retzlaff in a row, and then just a complete dud, 4 picks, because he is that gamer mentality of I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make this happen. And you need that in your quarterback. You just need it tempered with a little bit more experience and wisdom that you hope comes with that experience. And we'll see. We'll see how fast Retzlaff can evolve, because if he can, he's clearly got the skill set, but his back's against the wall now, and that's a tough place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. The nice thing is, there was a breakdown by Joe Wheat today, and I don't know if you want to talk to this, but on BYU's SI page, but he broke down some of the issues that are ailing the offense, but also on the positive side on how it's fixable, how these are things that we can get through. So I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, no, if you have that to pull up the just the first and second picture on there. I love articles like this, by the way. Again, not having played collegiate level football, I've watched the game my whole life, but when someone slows it down like this, it was awesome. So I don't know if Joe Wheat would ever hear this, but someone needs to tell him we need more of this stuff. This was awesome. But essentially, what he was getting at is the run game is not is an issue just as much of the running backs not seeing where they need to go as it is anything else. And so this is a 3rd and 1, 3rd down, big down, need the first down. Ropati's got the ball. And in BYU's zones running scheme, you have multiple options. It's not one, we're going to hit left side B gap. It's the play is going to develop and the running back's going to make a read on where the hole is and hit the hole. Here he can go up the middle where the play is called, and you also have an option to pull it to the right, where you see the guard Lapuaho running to the right. Roberts has sealed his block. Taase sealed his block, and you have this huge opening on the right-hand side that's a given first down, plus who knows what after that. And then if you go down to the second picture, Ropati, instead of taking the cut right, runs right up the middle and gets stopped for no gain. And so you have the right play called. You have the offensive line blocking it exactly how they should. And you have a running back misreading the zone scheme and running into the middle of the defense. And so he went through and he showed a few other examples of this. I thought it was really neat to see in kind of still frame motion like this, how this has happened numerous times in the SMU game. And so this was an element of the game that he brought to light where I really think you've got to have better vision. He highlighted the Nawahine touchdown as a play where he did do this. He cut it back, followed that blocker, that pulling guard, and got into the end zone on a later play, which was really cool. So, I think he had it later on down in the article, but there it was. So he takes that cutback and goes into the end zone because he sees the pulling guard and he sees the opening and takes it. So I don't know what Ropati's seeing. I'm not trained there, but this was such a good example of how right play call, right time, great blocking by the offensive line, and we're just not seeing it from a running back perspective.
Yep, absolutely. And in terms of so that should be something that they can go back on film. You assume that they're looking at that a lot and working with the running backs, but it's been something consistent. And that brings me to one of my takes for this week. It's just while we're on the topic is I think that LJ Martin is, and this is not a hot take, is the most important player on BYU's offense. We have a very different offense when he's in and when he's not. Just the amount of vision that he has and that he's able to run with. Now, I think Miles Davis may have some of that, but he's really used out more on the edges. He's not like an every down back. I don't know if he could be. They don't ever really seem to use him like that. But
I think we'll see more of him this week against Wyoming. I mean, I think it's either fate or irony that he's going to be the starter against Wyoming again. After 2 years ago, he had his his coming of age party when he ran for almost 200 yards against them. So that's poetry, I hope, and I hope he has a big game against him again. I don't know. I don't know if he has it. And Nawahine obviously showed that he can. He's a big back that can cut. I'd love to see Miles Davis get his shot. I just think Miles Davis is one of the most exciting players on the team. He's so fast, and he
Yeah.
seems to be pretty effective when he gets the ball. We've just seen him in limited action, and I think they've used him in fly sweeps in the option game to get him outside, which is smart. That's where he's comfortable. But now we need him to run between the tackles. Everybody talks in fall camp how he's got that part of his game now. He's ready. He can do the full offense, right? He gets the endorsement from Roderick. Well, now's the time to show it.
Yeah, show it, especially against a team like Wyoming that's been struggling, even though they'll come out ready to play. But we'll talk about Wyoming. So, yeah, I hope he does get the chance and we can see what he has. Talking about the play calling, though, it's so funny. It's like Aaron Roderick is almost really committed to like the long con. Like he'll play all game calling something a certain way just so in the fourth quarter like even if it's like the dumbest play, like right then he's like, "Hey, we're gonna give." It feels like he's almost intentionally giving up, the series right now and maybe the next series just to get everyone to bite because he knows later on he's gonna have another play they're gonna bite on so hard, and it feels like kind of like at that drive
Yeah.
that at the end, it was certain things, and it was kind of like when he pitched it out to Miles Davis. Retzlaff had been running a lot and been QB run and had several plays for the those two series, and then he pitched it over to Miles Davis. So anyway, funny, but okay. Now on the other side of the ball, our defense. This is the good news. What is your takeaway there?
Shocked.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocked. I am on record as saying we can't succeed with a 285-pound defensive tackle, namely Blake Mangelson, and that man is amazing. He is just tearing it up. They were incredible. They were absolutely incredible. This was at SMU, an incredibly high octane offense. And I texted you before the game. I didn't realize SMU had not beat a Power 4 school in 4 years, whatever it was. It had been a long time. So this run they've had of success has been against G5 competition, and so that's something to take into account. But you can't take away from the fact that their offense has been incredible, high flying, high powered. No one has been able to stop them, and BYU went in on their turf with a defense that has been much maligned and just dominated every aspect of that game. That defense got put in so many bad circumstances and came away again and again and again with stops. It was impressive in any way you look at it. D-line, linebacker, secondary.
Yeah. So I don't want to take anything away from SMU's team or defense. It really felt like a game where they didn't score a lot of points because our defense was playing out of its mind, and we didn't score a lot of points because our offense wasn't playing well. And that's not entirely true. Their defense was playing well, also. But last week in my preview for the matchup, I was looking at it and I broke it down because SMU was ranked top 20 in basically top 10 even for scoring offense and yards per game, scoring defense, yards allowed per game. But then when you broke it down to just their three P5 opponents, because it was P5 at the time, which was OU, who's good, TCU didn't make a bowl game, and then BC was their bowl game. And those numbers dropped drastically. They went from 36 points a game to 14 over that stretch. Wow. They went from 447 yards per game to 364. Defense went from allowing 19 points a game to 28. And so it's just so it changed drastically once they went up. So the rest of their schedule was a little bit soft, and they took advantage of that. Now, that's not to say they're not a good game. I mean, you have to play who's in front of you, but that did give me a little bit of hope coming into this games. And I still think SMU set up to have a bit of success this year because they play like the dregs of the ACC mostly, except for Florida State and Louisville, but now Florida State's struggling. So,
Speaking of the
um,
dregs of the ACC,
yeah, exactly. So,
poor
maybe
Florida State.
Stanford will be a tougher matchup, but um, so again, we'll see how they do. I believe that they are a good team and that we went and had a good win, and I think we should, as fans, be happy about that. And this was a game again we weren't supposed to win, and it put us ahead of schedule for the rest of the year. We kept saying
For
if they
sure.
can win all three of their out of conference, that means they only have to win a third of their conference games. They just have to find 3 wins in there to make it to a bowl game. And FPI, that had us, I think, at what was it, 4.5, I think, for the season. And I was like, I think we're above that. I think we'll get at least 5. And I still think we will. But FPI has now moved us up to estimating us to have win 4.5 games over the remainder of the season, which plus the 2 we've already won is 6.5. So now FPI, which goes to show it was wrong about these other, about like this game, for example, but it has more data, keeps improving. And so it gives us better odds to make it to a bowl game. So I'm happy with it. I really am. And I'm happy, when people like Joe Wheat break it down and show us, hey, these are things that are fixable. This gives us hope. And so we shouldn't be too down, especially when we know our defense can go out there and have the offenses back.
Yeah, I think the defense alone gives you hope that if you can pull out the win at Wyoming, I think we can pull out 3 conference wins with that defense. That defense stays generally healthy. You're going to get injuries, but if the defense stays generally healthy, you feel like you can pull 3 conference wins out of a hat because they'll keep you in every game. They'll give you a shot in every game if they play like that. That was really impressive stuff.
One of my other takes, though, is that Harrison Taggart needs to do some catching practice or something.
Jug
Two
machine.
games, 2 games now that he's almost had an interception.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's take those almost interceptions and make them
I,
interceptions.
I'll say one thing about the defense as well. If Jack Kelly goes down with injury, I don't know that we can continue to contain quarterbacks like we did against SMU. He is so fast and so strong. And we have a great linebacking core. We have a really deep linebacking core. So if he goes down and you get Cialia Serra on there, I mean, we've got guys who can step up, but he just feels like he's got another gear. He has something extra in the tank that just makes him a freak athlete out there. His closing speed was jaw dropping on a very athletic, very fast quarterback. So I hope he stays healthy because he's a blast to watch.
Yeah, he's amazing. And yeah, this defense is just so entertaining. As much as you prefer a high flying offense, I love watching this defense out there. And it felt good because I got a little nervous when they made the switch from Stone to Jennings, and it looked like, oh, they're sticking with Jennings, which makes sense. I mean, Stone was like negative 18 yards over 2 series or something. So
yeah,
it was not looking good. And Jennings, I was like, oh, he's looking more mobile, and certainly had their offense moving, but they continued to stall out. That defense held in there, and so I guess that goes to show their offense was moving, but at the end of the day, our defense held strong, and so
yeah,
super impressive. Especially when you look at the transformation that they went through. Like last year, you could see signs of it, and you thought, okay, year 2 is going to be better, but they made a huge leap.
yeah. I hope it's not. I hope it's not fragile because we're gonna have every team has injuries, and I hope the depth is there enough where we can continue this. Because you're right, the leap has been amazing, way ahead of schedule, what they should be. Jay Hill defense in year 2 should be good, but this was dominant, and I hope it continues.
Oh, one thing before we move on to this next week, I just want to say, okay, so here, I'll just go ahead and pull it up. This is from Sporty. He said, there are a ton of overreactions to the offense tonight. It still put up 336 yards. Utah had 6 games with fewer yards than that last year, and BYU had 9 games with fewer yards than that. Yes, it didn't look great at times, but these games happen quite often. and what was it? This other one. Um, Hilarious to me that BYU beats spread by 2 touchdowns, beats P4 team on the road, beats a team that if they beat us would have likely been in the top 25 this week, played lights out D and prevented even 1 touchdown, and folks are still freaking out. So, good points and help us keep perspective on this. I also like this. Look at our, the stats. I mean, Utah, granted, Cam Rising did go out and they had Wilson in there. But even as our offense was sputtering, as we were turning the ball over, we were still able to rack up the yards. And so I think it is good to keep a little bit of perspective. Things didn't go our
Yeah.
way. The team rallied together, found a way to win. This one primarily had been to be through defense, but also the offense getting just enough, of those big
Yep.
plays together to make it happen. So
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
We'll know if this was a springboard to better things to come, or a harbinger of not good things to come. So we'll see. I do think the offense has a chance to bounce back, have a solid game against Wyoming, and then go into Big 12 play and really show what they can do. It can The offense can progress. They can get there, but it's a big if, and you just as a fan, you sit back and cross your fingers. Hope we get that to roll the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple other, I meant to bring this up earlier, but the O line allowed 33% or pressures on 33% of dropbacks last season compared to just 20.6% this season. And also, they're creating 2.3 yards before contact per attempt, which last season it was 1.5. So that's just, again, to show that there is improvement with the O line. And we've seen, I don't know if you've seen actually, but the FPI or the PFF ranking of players has Caleb Etienne just grading high.
I heard that top 10 of all tackles.
Yeah, and it's just insane. I think he was the highest rated player on our team last week, and so it's
I hope that continues. It's cool. It's a cool story, and I'm super happy for him.
yeah, and he looks great. And if he's put it together and he's more comfortable in that spot, yeah, fantastic. Because we were all excited when he was showing up, and so if he's really been able to put it together and they've been able to help him get over whatever it was that was holding him back, it's fantastic. And yeah, so anyway, there's some other things. I won't get into all that. We've belabored it, but yeah, I feel good about the fact that our O line is there means okay. Now, if our running backs can just improve their vision, I think those things are there. If Jake can just resist the itch from, trying to do too much sometimes, and in the same Joe Wheat article, it broke down the other problem. He was talking about running backs not seeing the holes. The other one was Jake referring to the turnovers, but talking about how he just hesitates a little too long, and that set up some of these issues that we saw. And so it's not hesitating, trusting your receivers, and maybe that goes back to splitting reps over all of camp, that he didn't get the full QB1 amount of reps. I don't know. It's easy to do that and then blame the coaching staff, whatever. But anyway, so yeah, so let's move on to this week, and yeah, what do you make of Wyoming as a
Dangerous trap game, right? They've had this circled on their calendar for years since we scheduled it.
Utah? I'll be right back.
Yeah, and I think BYU is not only going to have their hands full with Wyoming, they're going to have a team that's cornered. I think it was Steve Sarkisian from Texas this week was talking to his team, who's playing a G5 team at home, was using Notre Dame and their loss to Northern Illinois as the example to say, look, these teams are coming in, and this is their shot at a big game, and this is Wyoming's shot at a big game. We're a rival for them. BYU's been disliked for a long time in Laramie, and this is going to be a tough game because of that. So on paper, BYU looks great, and it shouldn't be a challenge. Wyoming got smashed by a very good Arizona State team. Then they lost to a very good Idaho team, but it's still an FCS school coming in to your field and beating you. So Wyoming's got all the incentive in the world to come after us. They got nothing to lose. They're 0-2. They're desperate, and that is not a team you don't want to play a desperate Wyoming team. We played desperate Wyoming teams in the past, and it's not fun. Um, and so I think it's good if you can take any silver lining from the SMU game. It's that we are desperate. We are doubly focused. If you smash SMU, I think you set yourself up for a serious trap game at Wyoming when they're that motivated, chomping at the bit to come after us. Now, I think we match that motivation. I think BYU is just as desperate as Wyoming for a win, and there's no way they look past them to Kansas State because of what happened at SMU. And so, while on paper it looks great for us, I do think we're going to have to scratch and claw a victory to a certain degree. I hope we pull away in the second half, but it's going to be a dogfight for a bit. But I think BYU comes in focused because of their struggle at SMU. They're not going to overlook anybody at any time. And you got Jake Retzlaff, who's got a ton to prove. You got the running backs who've got a ton to prove, and that offense comes in motivated at Wyoming.
So what do you think the team needs to focus on this week to get that offense moving?
Well, it's the little things. And so in Joe Wheat's article, he talks about how these things are correctable, right? Running back vision, seeing the cutback and things like that. But I gotta believe that these running backs who've been in the system for 4 years have been looking at film on this, right? This is what they've been training for over and over again. And maybe they lack some live reps and things like that. But so you hope that develops and that vision comes along. But I think it'll come down to the scheme, the play calling, how they approach it. Do they need to simplify things for the running backs? Do they need to simplify things for Retzlaff? Do they need to intentionally involve more people? Lassiter needs more touches. Keanu Hill needs more touches. How do you get creative to get the ball into the hands of your playmakers? I mean, you saw Lassiter turn an 8-yard gain into a 65-yard gain because he's Darius Lassiter. He can, that was sheer determination on that.
Couldn't get him
So
down.
no, they couldn't. So I think it comes down to the scheme, and I think that's what they're going to focus on. I hope those things can improve, and the running back vision, and Retzlaff is growing and excelling now and learning from the past. But I think as a coach, you just got to make sure you scheme it so that you get the touches to the right people, you get the ball in the hands of your playmaker, and allow them to do what they do best.
Well, here's hoping. I look forward to the game, and hopefully we can get some of that offensive frustration out of the way and put up some points and see the offense kind of click this week. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to our picks now. And let's first review what happened last week.
Some accountability.
Let's see here. I can't remember who did. Oh, yeah. You did pick SMU, so that's one for me. Although that's, I think, the only one that went my way. I think where we differed here. Quickly, no. Well, a couple of these teams did struggle.
They were close. OSU and K-State. They both almost lost.
Tulane with a new head coach, and that lost a lot of players. Some of this, I wonder, is it? Because we talk about it when we look at BYU, but I don't think about it as often when I think of other teams. But is it possible, teams are doing the same thing? They're not really opening up the full playbook against some of these opponents, and maybe
it could be.
I don't know.
You do a little bit of that. OSU definitely opened it up. I mean, that's Arkansas. You got to put your best game out there. Arkansas is playing desperate. Their head coach is certainly on the hot seat. But those first 3 games you had there, OSU, Kansas State, and Pitt, Iowa State, all 4 of those were really close games. Very, very close. So Pitt's comeback was amazing. I watched the end of that game, and that was really impressive.
Yeah, it was a bummer. I was rooting for Cincy, but I missed that one. I didn't watch the end of that. There were a lot of games going on. I did see the end of Iowa State and Iowa. And again, I know I picked Iowa, but I was rooting for Iowa State there. Also saw Baylor squander a chance to come back and shock Utah.
Yeah.
Bummer.
couldn't quite get it done. That would have been good.
Oh, that was their chance. Okay. But let's see. We were both wrong on Kansas. That was a
that was a shocker.
Oklahoma
almost lost to Houston.
You picked Nebraska, but you were kind of waffling. You're saying it could go either way.
I almost went Colorado. Thank goodness I didn't, because they did not show up for that game.
And then
Dylan Raiola's too good.
Arizona's looking scary, man.
Uh,
No?
I don't think so. No, no. I think
No, oh,
Arizona's
sorry. Did I
struggling.
say Arizona? I meant ASU.
Oh, ASU. They are very, very good. Very good. I don't want to go play at ASU anymore.
I
We all
know.
had
We're
that
all
one
thinking,
circled as a as one of the two we're going to win at the end of the season, and they look amazing. I will forever be frustrated that their quarterback Levitt did not give us a look and come on over. We had his brother who ended up transferring to Utah State, so maybe that played into it. Maybe
right.
um, but he was so good at Michigan. Well, he was going to be good at Michigan State, right? 4-star prospect, and now he is just tearing it up. And Arizona State looks really good.
I know. Kind of makes you wonder what would. I mean, I'm not even saying
I know,
Jackson,
right?
just Levitt. Like, I mean, I
Yep.
felt like it was realistic expectation. He was kind of the type of player you'd hope BYU could
He
get.
was, yeah, yeah. And that's a story for another day about our quarterback recruitment. But he is kind of the illustration of my concerns around that, because boy, he is good, and ASU is fun to watch this year.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on. So that summary basically, you're 14-1. I'm 11-4 right now. We missed week 1, so hopefully week 3 is better for me. Let's take a
I was
look.
pretty risky week 3.
Oh, today? Oh, for this one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. You went with UNLV, which is not a terrible pick. I actually had pause on this one a little bit. Um,
Yeah, I worry about Kansas's offense, and UNLV is playing out of their mind right
wait.
now.
You're worried about your boy? Um,
My favorite man in the world, Jeff Grimes, is not getting it done at Kansas. The
uh,
difference maker. Um,
how
I
many
love
Big
Jeff
12
Grimes, but
schools can
man,
he, help? But, people kind of criticize him, but I'm like, but he really helped BYU's offense.
he really did. And you know what? The more he struggles as an offensive coordinator, the more likely it is he comes back to us one day and takes over that offensive line, which is all I want. But
Our old
yeah,
line looks better.
I was looking at the top 10 teams who have exceeded FPI expectations, and UNLV is in the top 5 or top 10. I mean, they have just gone ballistic. So I like them in an upset pick. We'll see. Uh, Kansas coming off a loss, so they're going to be super motivated. They're at home. We'll see.
I was kind of homer all the way down. I didn't do it intentionally, but I picked all Big 12 teams. It doesn't seem right. I mean, I wanted to do the Texas State or the North Texas, but I was like, there's no way Texas Tech loses 3 in a row to open the
Uh,
season.
so here's my thought: Texas Tech is demoralized. They're just having an awful season, awful start to the season. I think the wheels are coming off. This is year 3 of the coach, right? So this is the year that everybody buys in, it takes off, or the wheels come off, and the wheels are coming off. And so I'm concerned about the mental fortitude of that team. And on the other hand, on the other side, North Texas has looked good. Chandler Morris transferred from TCU to North Texas. He didn't look great last game, threw some picks. So it was a risky pick there. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas Tech just digs deep and gets a win there. But I see the wheels coming off, and so I thought I'd take a shot at North Texas.
I think I was going to make that pick, but then I went and looked at their stats, and I can't remember what I saw, but I wasn't too impressed. Let's see. I think Utah State could shock Utah. I don't know. No, Cam Rising is expected to play, right?
I
I, th- I think
I haven't heard if he's playing or not. If I'm Utah, he's not playing in that game. Utah
y-
State has an interim head coach. They, again, speaking of mental fortitude, I know that's a pseudo rivalry game for Utah State. That's as much of a rivalry game as they get. Um, but yeah, I don't know if I play Cam Rising there. Let him rest his hand.
Yeah, absolutely. You do. Okay. I just thought I saw that somewhere, but I think maybe they're just saying he could come back. All right. So the rest of the games, again, nothing too surprising. I think
Well,
Colorado comes out and shocks, or Colorado State comes out and shocks Colorado this week. The last year it was a great game. Went down
it
to the
was. They're so motivated. This is at Colorado State, and Colorado State hates Colorado to begin with, but after last year, oh boy, there's extra motivation there. Colorado's reeling. There's probably some self-doubt in that team. I've always been concerned about about the mental durability of those Colorado teams. They just seem to be all pomp and circumstance, and so I almost made that pick too. I was wrestling between Colorado State and Colorado. I'm going to go with Colorado. They're going to dig deep. They got enough talent on the field, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Colorado State wins that.
Yeah, and then UCF TCU. I think that's going to be close. That's one that I went back and forth on. It is at TCU. I've had some concerns about the UCF quarterback. What's his
Yeah.
face?
AJ Jefferson.
AJ Jefferson. Oh boy. Who BYU's had a hard time with, but it seems like everyone else has got him figured out. So I didn't watch. I had planned to, but didn't catch much or if any of that game on this weekend for UCF. But I saw that he was looking better. Was kind of the sentiment. So
Yeah, everybody likes UCF right now, so I kind of went with the popular pick. To me, it's more about TCU. I'm not convinced that they've got a great team out there right now. I think they put together a really incredible storied run to the national championship game, but I don't know that there's a lot of substance to the program. Last year, really, I think showed some cracks in the system, and I don't know that they've got it figured out. And that's why I like UCF in that one. I'm not convinced UCF is the dark horse Big 12 title candidate that people think they are, but I think they're better than TCU.
yeah, I don't know if I think of them as a title candidate. I mean, they are kind of dark horse candidate as everyone's painted them out to be, but I do think that they will do well in the conference. I think they'll get a fair amount of wins, that they'll be up there near the upper echelon of the conference. I think they'll be probably just outside of it, but we'll see. And then I know preseason, I said, okay, I think BYU maybe loses one of these first three. And I said at Wyoming, I have since, and I had planned on, even at the time, once we made our official picks, going with BYU in this one, but I am officially picking BYU in this matchup. Unlike some people, I can't really go against them. So
You're truer blue. That's yeah. BYU's got their hands full, but they got to have this one. As bad as Wyoming could look, they've got to have it. Like I said, I expect Wyoming to fight and fight hard, but you really want to win this one by a couple touchdowns to feel good about yourself. It's at Laramie, which it's tough to play there. But if they start to let that game slip, the crowd will get rowdy and it'll get out of hand. So I think they got to put them away by a couple touchdowns.
yeah, I would love that, to see them get up early, and really just kind of put that game away and take the crowd out of it. Would be good. Nothing like silencing a crowd, especially a rowdy one.
Yep.
I don't know. So anyway, great. Well, we will see how both of us do this week on that. Again, we got to be happy as Cougar fans. We're seeing progress and we're ahead of schedule. And that bowl game, again, we were 5-2 last year and let it get away from us. So by no means is it guaranteed, especially with the way our schedule's lined up. But we have to feel good being ahead of schedule right now. Because if we're able to lock it down this week, that means 3 of 9, and it's that much. It's just that much closer. Obviously, this is goes without saying. So anyway, all right. Well, I am excited and look forward to it. I think we'll see a bounce back game from a few guys. I was going to say this last week, I did not do so well on my thumbnail picks. I had Lassiter and Stone for my 2 players. Stone obviously negative 18 yards, and Lassiter had a great play, not a lot of action.
Yeah, he was quiet, but that great play made up for it. That was incredible. But yeah, Stone, not your best pick. We're back to the curse now.
I don't know if Lassiter was cursed, but yeah, it was. If I can curse the other team, the opposing team's player, I'm okay with that.
That's right.
We'll see who ends up on there for us this week. I'm thinking maybe Miles Davis. It feels like a Miles Davis game.
Yeah, you have to, man. He's gonna go off for 200 again. I can feel it. It's just
Either that or Keanu Hill, because he also had a big one. But I think the way that he's been utilized and Miles Davis having to fill in for, with the lack of depth at running back, I think Davis has got it.
It's Miles' game. Let's see it.
All right. Okay. Well, if you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel as you catch all our content. We've got more deep dives. We talk with Wyoming guest this week to give us insight into that matchup, as well as our live reactions after the game on Saturday. So be sure you hit the bell and all that good stuff. And as always, go Cougs.
Go Cougs.